Cherkasy is only one of 52 cities on the Dnieper River, but it is the most beautiful center of Ukraine. It stretches for 17 kilometers along the coast of Kremenchuk Reservoir, and it is only 8 kilometers wide. The city was built on the right bank, from which the longest bridge down in Ukraine crosses through the river. The main street in Cherkasy is the one of the longest boulevard in Europe. It is called Shevchenko Boulevard. Its length is 6.5 kilometers. It is equal to the longest boulevard of Paris. By analogy to Kiev, government planted chestnuts along the alleys. Tourists should know that the main streets are blocked during major celebration. The modern city as a place of human habitation is known for a long time. It was the area of settlement of people and economic activity of primitive man from the late Paleolithic. The exact date of the founding of the city is still unknown. Different scientists had various opinions about this in different periods of time. Most of them believe that it appeared in the period of Kievan Rus, and due to its geographical location was the boundary between nomadic and sedentary peoples.
Cherkasy is a military town. It served as a defense fortress.
Cherkasy was mentioned in 1305 as a city with such Ukrainian cities as Kiev, Kaniv, Zhytomyr and Ovruch.
According to official documents, Cherkasy is 731 years old, but recently a new version was appeared, according to which Cherkasy is much younger, and it was founded by Lithuanians. According to this version, Cherkasy appeared in 1370, 80 years.
It was a military center in the war against the Crimea Khanate. There were some geographical and political conditions which affected the inner life of Cherkasy. During that period, the city became one of the center of the Cossacks.
It was a Cossack town. There were nomads to the south, so Cherkasy performed defensive function. It was center of a Cossack regiment.
Behind of me, 700 years ago was built the first wooden castle in Cherkasy. Twice it was destroyed, twice it was rebuilt. The third time it was destroyed by fire that burned all the city. In 12 years, citizens fully restored Cherkasy and built a stone fortress, which would be destroyed again in 100 years. In the Soviet Union, a homeland mother inn was built on the highest hill of the city, but it is smaller than homeland mother in the capital. Going down a hill, you will see one of the most interesting streets for tourists, where there are still a lot of old buildings. This Kreshchatyk street is one of two that exist in Ukraine. Kreshchatyk in Cherkasy appeared since 1879, but it had different names. Artisans and printers settled here, and rich citizens built its estates. Kreshchatyk is a business, commercial, administrative and financial center. Banks, state institutions, hotels and cinemas are on the street. Although it also has another name, Dakhnivska Street, citizens prefer to call it Kreshchatyk.
Kreshchatyk had several names. At first it was Dakhnivska Street, then Kreshchatyk Street, and this name has returned nowadays. There was a period when the street had several names, as it was divided into several parts.
In 100 years after the destruction of the castle, Cossack descendants Cybulski built a house on the street that would become the oldest building in the city that survived.
Buildings of 15th, mid-19th century were not higher than 2 floors, but usually there were one-story buildings. Only in the late 19th century houses became higher in 2 or even 3 floors, and the first such building was a Cybulski's house.
Today the building was given to the Museum of Poet, who once was saved from arrest by brothers. Soon was built another star of modern city, Wedding Palace. Almost in the center, from a rich merchant Sherbina house, begins Kreshchatyk Street. Today it is known as one of the 10 most beautiful places for marriage and 5 the most lit buildings in Ukraine. Previously, in the two-floor brick house was also a winter garden. It was included to complex of estate. Щербина built it for rent, that was usual for this time.
The house was built and it was rented for house and shops. On the top floor there was a dwelling for the owner.
Within a few years after it was built, rural council rented. Then the estate passed to the Soviet of Workers' Deputies, then became the House of Pioneers. Since 1970, the house has become a city wedding palace. A little further down the street you can see the very first hotel building in Cherkasy, which immediately attracts the attention by its color and shape. Built 100 years ago in the neo-Gothic style, today it is one of the 10 architectural masterpieces Ukraine.
There is a mention that it was Щербina's house from the very beginning. After that it was bought by Skorina because he wanted to build a hotel. The hotel was called Flaviansk and Grand Hotel. In 20 years it was called Dnieper.
Blue House and the modern Palace of Wedding were built in the early 19th century by a Polish architect Gorodecki, who is known for the house with chimeras. But according to the point of view of historians, there are several projects by the author developed in the city. Well-known building is also the first gymnasium, which was the first personal building for students.
He was young and ambitious man when he was building a gymnasium for men in Cherkasy. Before that, teachers of the gymnasium rented a room to teach students.
Nowadays there are 21 regular schools and 14 special schools, including gymnasiums and lyceums. For spiritual development and architectural delight, tourists should also visit churches and temples in Cherkasy. In the historic district of the town, one of the oldest churches, Holy Trinity Cathedral, was built. Its history goes back to the existence of the first castle. Close to Castle Hill originally was built two wooden churches, which eventually was destroyed.
There was an Orthodox wooden chapel first, which later was used by Catholics. When there were really few Catholics, their church was demolished and Trinity Church appeared there.
After the destruction of the castle, temple moved to the Castle Hill, where it existed more than 100 years. 50 years ago, people destroyed it by the explosives to build a pedestal motherland. Only in 1999 was built a new church at the floor of Castle Hill. For almost 15 years, tourists from all over Ukraine come to look at the giant building 74 meters in height and enjoy its majesty. Right here in the heart of the city was built the largest Orthodox church in Ukraine, St. Mikhail Church.
Before building a cathedral in the park, there were different churches there. After that, there was a cemetery and finally a dance floor. Nowadays, only a few people know that there was a mass grave.
The construction of the temple began in 1994 and continued more than 6 years, a few more years spent for decor. But the plans of the author finished only 15 years ago, when the door of the church was first opened for people. The height of the temple is 30-story residential building, and the temple area could accommodate 4 leaning towers. If you get tired of walking around the city, you could find manicured parks with a beautiful nature, where you can relax from the noise of the city. The largest park in Черкаси, Sosnovy Bir or Pine Forest, is the best place for tourists. Despite the fact that the park has changed the name, people still call it Yubileyny. Large magnificent park with ponds, streams, lawns, walkways, unique plant species was laid almost half a century ago. During his life, Cherkasy Park received many prestigious awards. Sosnovy Bir is one of the 7 wonders of Cherkasy region. Here in the summertime there is a bike rental, lift barriers, where you can test your agility. Its topography with step cliffs, rises, is the perfect viewing platform, which you can watch the beautiful scenery, and gentle slopes can be reached until the Dnieper.
Actually, park is a combination of man-made elements with nature. There was a pine forest since olden times and people came there to work and to relax.
Today it stretches for over 50 hectares. In the past, the giant boulders, pebbles from the Crimea pits were brought to the park. Artificial lakes and waterfalls were built. Its flora contains more than 70 species of exotic plants. Seedings enriched by the Trostinets and Kiev Botanical Garden, Sofiivka and many other places. Here you can also find a perfect place for romance. A walk through the alleys awakens a desire to be a poet or a writer. If it's not enough, you can imagine stories of those who had left these logs on the bridge behind of me. It is called the Bridge of Lovers. More than 1,000 pairs a year left small and large logs with or without names. Each of them symbolizes a union with the loved, eternal friendship or a quest for love. Park architects have taken care of entertainment for its smallest visitor by making special children and youth areas for recreation. Here are carousels and swings, rope and running, which is not a shame and adult entertained. On weekends, the park offers its guests entertainment services and exotic animals. You could also visit local zoo to see a gathered diversity of animals. Today it is the best exposition complex for wild animals among zoos in Ukraine. Its animals collection includes 240 species or about 3,000 individuals. There are hunting animals, birds, mammals and amphibians. Here you can also find kids area and photo zones. The zoo is only entertaining part of the park of the victor in World War II.
It was created a piece of nature. Because of that, at the beginning there were only a few species of animals. Today we can be proud of the best collection of terrarium group of animals. We are the only zoo that contains poison animals. After some adjustment, this year we have got the best aviaries, land of wolves and bears for hunting animals.
Since 1975, the park was conceived only as a memorial for the victory Cherkasy liberators from Nazi invaders. There were a monument to fallen soldiers, aircraft and guns. After the landscape, different lakes were projected. A variety of plant species were imported. There, in a few years, government brought to the park the amusement rides and created a local zoo. Those who prefer to walk near water always can visit a river port. The tourist has the opportunity to relax in the cafe of the port or to swim on a ship on the Dnieper to enjoy the view of city. The real tourist who wants to get to know the culture of the city wants to visit theaters and concert halls. Cherkasy is known for several such places. The most popular is a drama theater called After Shevchenko, which offered interesting performances 2 years ago. Today it is closed for reconstruction. Great Fire in 2015 changed the theater into amphitheater. The staff moved to another theater, the theater called After Kulik, but it is twice smaller than the previous building. The citizens can be proud for our local philharmonic. Nearly 200 concerts are held there annually since 1995. Here you can find the music for every taste, from jazz musicians to symphony orchestras and folk singers. And there was held the first book fest, Book Fest, which covered the whole range of readers, from the youngest readers, for those was the first day of the fest, to the advanced readers. The Philharmonic was decorated with different books and had thematic and photo zones. Visitors had the opportunity to visit performances of famous actors, musicians, writers and publishers, and to communicate with them personally. On the fest you could buy books of internationally known authors very cheap, and also to get their signatures. Modern pop bands you can see in the Palace of Culture Družba Narodov. Since Soviet times, it was used as an entertainment center of workers of Azot. Azot is the biggest factory of mineral fertilizers in Ukraine. Although the building is still subordinated to the factory, anyone can visit the palace to enjoy music. One of the new and really popular places for recreation of students became shopping centers. Nowadays, there are more than 5 big shopping and entertainment centers in Cherkasy. In the historical part of the city at Chreshchatyk, private owners has built the largest shopping center in the open air. You can see the unity of old and modern architecture. In the evening, a lot of young people go in the city center to eat in a cafe or a restaurant, to buy something or just to walk. A lot here depends on the season. In summer you can attend free dance master classes outside, listen to the street musicians. In winter learn how to ski. Only a few blocks from it built one 5-floor giant, Lyubava, equally popular as its neighbor. It attracts customers by a large selection of clothing stores. Over 30 shops of clothes and shoes and many stores of accessories. Each month, the owners carry out activities that are of interest for both children and their parents. On weekdays, you can visit the comfortable cinema, a bowling alley and a nightclub. A small fast food outlets, perfect with the price and taste for students. A little further from the city center, near the campus of the State University, a new shopping center was built, which opened just 2 years ago. Its main feature is a huge hypermarket at the area of 6,000 meters. For children and youth, center owners have created a playground. For adults, many shops to suit different tastes. Students can please themselves not expensive snacks in the cafe of the shopping center. There are a lot of students in Cherkasy, and there are 2 universities of national importance, 1 private university, and more than 15 institutions, technical schools and colleges in the city. The National University of Bogdan-Khmelnytsky is the rather famous university. It is the oldest university of the region. In the early 20th century there was only one faculty. It was a faculty of social education, which included history and philology, natural sciences and physics and mathematics department. A year after the opening, the institute organized a 3-year educational courses. In 1930, the institute had moved to another building in the city center, which was for a long time the main building. The university has effective 9 departments, which employed about 100 teachers. Then the Pedagogical Institute has become a university with 10 faculties. In 2003, university has acquired the status of national. Today the university has 9 faculties and 2 institutes, and over 6,000 students not only from Ukraine, but also from the other countries. Another institution of national importance is Cherkasy State Technological University. It was founded in 1860 as a general technical department of the Kiev Technological Institute of Food Industry. At the beginning of its work, the university had 500 students. For 10 years, the number of students has increased almost threefold. That's why one more building was added to main one. There were the Department of Humanities and the Department of General Subjects.
At that time there was a need for skilled builders, that's why the Department of Construction Technology appeared. Now there are more than 40 specialties. The university cooperates with various countries in Africa and Europe.
From 1980, the construction of new 9-floor laboratory building began. The institute's infrastructure includes 2 academic buildings, 12 laboratories, a library, dining room, pantry, and 2 student dormitories. Today, the only private school of the 4th level of accreditation is Eastern Europe University. It is founded in 1992 by Professor Vasiltsov and Kunchenko. professors have opened private university in Cherkasy, have developed their own methods of selecting students by an interview. For the educational process, they rented space of training center Cherkasy Promwood. Subsequently, there wasn't enough room for students, so the owners have begun its expansion. The society of the time was in sharp need of qualified economic specialists in management, marketing, market economy, international relations, and so on. At that time, such specialists wasn't begin prepared, and the curriculum, teaching methods, and educational materials had to be created from the scratch.
The university offers students the opportunity to earn their degree online. Since 1992, students from Ukraine, as well as from other countries, can obtain education here.
Today, university has about 5,000 students and cooperates with Poland, the USA, France, and the other countries. Cherkasy since the Soviet time is famous for its athletes. It is our team who won prizes at competitions in football, handball, basketball and many more events with the ball or without. To see thirds of sports of citizens, you can buy morning running, where businessmen, teachers, housewives and pensioners start their day. Those who prefer a late recovery can be seen in many gyms. The largest today sports city complex, Sport Life, which has its own football and tennis court, swimming pool, gym, children's sports center and several studios for fitness, kickboxing and Pilates. Here you can find occupation for every taste, but in the morning you have to wait in line. When those who once loved just keep themselves in shape, people turn to professionals who take pride in the city. The Cherkasy most outstanding football team during its existence was Cherkasy Dnipro. The club was founded in 1955, and by 2009 its players received the significant victories. After its reorganization in 2010, it has become the first club in the history of Ukrainian football second league, which managed to get through to the semi-finals of Cup of Ukraine. It's also famous among Ukrainian fans by the highest number of home games without losing. Professionals of their sport can be of any age, but sometimes we should start from childhood. In Cherkasy, even within the smallest children are the tennis players, football players and athletes. It is also worth mentioning the basketball team Cherkasy Monkeys, where players not only get the victory in the All Championship, but also are permanent members of European Games. Cherkasy Monkeys is the only team in Ukraine which, starting from the first league in November 2003, just in debut season, has won a ticket to Premier League. Fortunately, the athletes has a place to train themselves in. In Cherkasy, for the development of young and adult athletes, there are several stadiums, one of which is Builder. It is a place where Cherkasy Monkeys studied and where still have their trainings. Stadium proud of their players. As always, on the wall hang photos, symbols team and even scarves from each game of team. Certainly noteworthy is the largest outdoor stadium of the town, Center Stadium, which can accommodate over 10,000 viewers. The stadium was built in 1957. The first stage was an open game between local club Kolgospnik, which later became the Dnieper, and the capital's Dynamo. From the very beginning, only Ukrainian teams played at this stadium. And a few years later, the international game against Germany-Liechtenstein was held among the youth football teams. Today the stadium hosts national local tournaments of various sports. Despite it is a sports stadium, nowadays it has an option of wedding palace for outdoor ceremonies. Every aspect of city life is highlighted by the local media. Graduates of local university inform about latest news of the city and the region on our local channels. They discuss important questions and entertain the audience. And there is a special content with cartoons and fairy tales for the smallest viewers. Among 13 printed media, the most famous is Cherkasy Край, Нова Доба, and Вечірнє Черкаси, which about 20 years provide citizens with the newest information. In the newspapers you can find news, analysis, entertainment articles for women and men. The majority of newspapers publish applications for small children and teenagers. There are also a lot of online medias that publish the newest information in an hour after event happened. Today, the city with a long history is one of the popular Ukrainian cities among the tourists. Although the potential of the city is not completely relieved, the city authorities try to provide the European comfort in it that would complement the historical gems and landscapes of Cherkasy.